Thank you for joining me. I'm Palmer Weich Mims, and these are my stories. I hope you enjoy them, and if so, hit that like button, and please click the subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and you'll be notified when we drop a new story. Join us every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday for new journeys. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy today's narrative. The shards we leave behind. They say a house doesn't fall down all at once. It's a slow, invisible rot. It starts in the basement, where the dampness seeps into the wood. It crawls up the drywall, hiding behind the family photos and the fresh coats of paint. You live in it, you breathe in it, and you tell yourself the creaking floorboards are just character. But for Steve and Zipporah, the house didn't just creak tonight. Tonight, the foundation snapped. Chapter 1. The Spark. It's 8:14 p.m. on a Tuesday. The kitchen light is a harsh, flickering fluorescent tube that makes everything look slightly sickly. The green of the leftover salad, the pale skin of Zipporah's knuckles, the dark, dilated pupils in Steve's eyes. On the counter sits a roast chicken. It's the kind of meal you make when you're trying to apologize for a fight you haven't even had yet. The steam has stopped rising. The skin is beginning to shrivel. It is a monument to an effort that failed before it even began. The catalyst? A set of keys. A jagged piece of metal that costs $3 to cut at a hardware store. But in this kitchen, in this moment, those keys are the heavy brass handle to a door that should have stayed locked. I'm asking you one more time, Zipporah. Where did you put them? Steve's voice isn't a shout. It's a low, vibrating hum, the sound of a transformer right before it blows. He stands in the doorway, his silhouette blocking the light from the hallway. He looks larger than he is. Zipporah was at the sink. She hasn't turned around. She stared at a single soap bubble clinging to the faucet. She feels like if she moves, the world will tilt. I didn't touch them, Steve. I haven't left the house since Sunday. Why would I touch your keys? Because you like the chaos, he says. He takes a step forward. You like watching me scramble. You like that I'm late for the regional meeting because it makes me look like the failure you think I am. Chapter 2. The Blue Rim Bowl. Steve takes another step. The air changes. It's a physical shift, like the drop in pressure before a tornado. He feels the heat crawling up his spine. It's a red mist, a chemical surge that bypasses logic. Don't you dare play the martyr, he sneers. You hide things. It's a control tactic. A control tactic? Zipporah's voice rises. The eggshell white walls move closer. I can't even control the grocery list, Steve. I'm a ghost in this house. I move around your moods like I'm walking through a minefield. She steps toward him. In the geography of a failing marriage, space is the only thing keeping the peace. When she closes the gap, she enters his orbit of gravity. Steve sees her coming. He looks past her, and in his distorted mind, the kitchen walls dissolve. 3 years, October. He remembers the Highland Park Art Fair. He remembers the smell of her perfume, sandalwood and rain. They were newly in love. That stage where even a disagreement about which rug to buy feels like a flirtation. They stopped at a stall with a hand-painted sign. Gerard Pottery. Look at this one, Zipporah had whispered. She picked up a heavy ceramic bowl. It was cream-colored with a deep cobalt blue rim. It wasn't perfect. There was a thumbprint near the base where the artist had gripped it before the kiln. It's beautiful, Steve said. He reached out, his hand covering hers. He wasn't looking at the bowl. He was looking at her. It's sturdy, she said, her voice full of a quiet domestic hope. Like us, we can put everything in here. Keys, mail, memories. It'll hold the weight. He bought it for $40. He carried it to the car like it was made of thin glass. For 1,000 days, that bowl was the center of their universe. And now, it was sitting on the counter, right next to the cold chicken. It was empty. Chapter 3. The Breaking Point. Steve sees the emptiness. He looks at her hands. He remembers when those hands used to guide his through the chords of a guitar. Now, they are clenched into weapons. "You're lying," he whispers. "I'm not lying, Steve. Look in your jacket, the one you wore to the bar last night." She reaches for him, not to hit him, but to grab the lapel of his coat, to find the truth in the pocket. But to Elias, her hand looks like a claw. It looks like an attack. He reacts. It isn't a punch. It's a shove. A blind, panicked extension of his arms. Zipporah's heels catch on the edge of the linoleum. She flies backward. The world turns into a series of disconnected images. The ceiling fan, the magnetic list on the fridge, the edge of the granite counter. Chapter 4. The Hollow Silence. Her shoulder hits the counter, and her arm sweeps the blue-rimmed bowl off the edge. It hits the floor a millisecond before she does. The silence that follows is the loudest sound in the world. Steve is frozen in place. He looks like a statue of a man who just committed a murder. His breath comes in jagged, whistling gasps. Zipporah is on the floor. She isn't crying. She is staring at the shards. A piece of the cobalt blue rim has sliced her palm. A single drop of blood, bright and vivid, falls onto a piece of white ceramic. Inside Steve's head, a wall has collapsed. He had stood at the altar, looking into her eyes, and he had made a silent vow to the universe. "I will be the one who stops the cycle." And now, the gears have turned, and he is just another broken tooth in the machine. He wants to go to her. He wants to beg for a forgiveness that he knows he doesn't deserve. But his legs won't move. He is paralyzed by the sudden, horrific realization of who he is. "I am my father," he thinks. Zipporah looks at the blood on the ceramic. She doesn't feel the pain in her shoulder yet. Right now, she only feels a strange, cold clarity. She remembers a conversation they had a year ago sitting on the porch. She had asked him what his deal breaker was. He told her if he ever made her feel small, if he ever made her look at him and feel fear, that would be the end. She looks up at him. He looks small. He doesn't look like a monster. He looks like a pathetic, frightened boy. And that is the most heartbreaking part. She realizes that the bowl didn't break because of the fall. It broke because it was already full of cracks. The keys, the bar nights, the silences. The bowl had been breaking for years. This was just the final impact. Chapter 5. The Exodus. Steve finally found his voice. It was a whisper, barely audible over the hum of the refrigerator. "Zipporah, I didn't mean..." "Don't," she says. The word is a razor. She stood up. She walked to the hook by the door. She reached into the pocket of her own cardigan, the one she had draped over the chair earlier that morning. She pulls out a set of keys. "They were on the table," she said. "I put them in my pocket because I was going to move your car for the street sweeper. I forgot." She set the keys on the counter. They make a tiny, pathetic clink next to the shriveled chicken. She walked out. Steve heard the floorboards creaking. The sound of a suitcase zipper. The most final sound a human being can hear. He stayed in the kitchen, looking at the shards. He picked up a piece, the one with his thumbprint. It was sharp. It cut into his skin. He welcomed the sting. He realized that some things don't get repaired. You don't glue a marriage back together when the pieces are this small. The steering wheel felt like ice beneath Zipporah's hands. As she reached the highway, her mind tried to blame her. I shouldn't have moved the keys. But then, the phantom sensation of the air leaving her lungs returned. That wasn't stress. That was a boundary being turned into ash. She pulled into her sister's driveway. She sat in the silence of the car, looking at her reflection. She didn't look like a victim, and she didn't look like a survivor. She just looked like a woman who had finally run out of excuses. Chapter 6. The Final Conversation. 12 days later, they met in a sterile coffee shop. Steve looked diminished. "I haven't moved the bowl yet. The pieces. I can't bring myself to sweep them up." "I'm not coming back to get my things, Steve," Zipporah said. She kept her hands folded on the table. "I'll send a list." "Zipporah, please. It was one night, 1 second. You know who I am." "That's the problem, Steve," she said. "I thought I knew who you were. I realized that the rot hadn't started in the kitchen. It had been there all along." "I've started seeing someone," Steve said. "A therapist. I'm fixing the rot." "I'm glad," she said. "I hope you fix it. But you have to understand something, Steve. You can fix the man, and you still can't unbreak the bowl. The ceramic is in 1,000 pieces. Even if you glue them all back together, it will never hold water again. It will always leak, and I am tired of trying to catch the spills." Steve looked at the scar on her hand. The reality of the impact finally seemed to settle into his bones. The frantic pleading died out, replaced by a hollow, crushing silence. "Throw them away," Zipporah said as she stood up. "That's what you do with things that are broken beyond repair. You stop holding on to the sharp edges so you can finally let your hands heal." Epilogue. She walked out of the coffee shop without looking back. This time, there was no rain, just the pale, indifferent sunlight of a Monday afternoon. The story didn't end with a hug or a final door slam. It ended with them standing in the debris of their separate lives, realizing that while wounds heal, scars change the texture of the skin forever. Hey there, love pies. I've been Zipporah before. I've been in a situation where I wanted to truly believe the best resided in a person, even though they continuously showed me otherwise. Having to make the decision to truly walk away is difficult, but it needs to be done sometimes for our own peace of mind. Have you ever found yourself there? Leave a comment below and let's talk about it. That's it for today, besties. Join us again on Wednesday as we embark on a brand new journey. Cheers to a brand new week.